ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 18. King Yayati regains his youth. Texts 32. I will read the first two texts myself. Nahushaya sutam datva sah sharmishthayosana tam aha rajan sharmishtham adastalpena karhichet. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Vaisarana Aravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When Shukracharya gave Devayani in marriage to Yayati, he had Sharmishta go with her. But he warned the king, "My dear king, never allow this girl, Sharmishta, to lie with you in your bed." Text 31. Vilokyaushan Vilokyaushan Nasim Rajan Charmishta Suprajam Kvachet Tam eva vavre rahasi sakya patim ritau sati. Translation. O King Parikshit, upon seeing Devayani with a nice son, Sharmishta once approached King Yayati at the appropriate time for conception. In a secluded place, she requested the king, the husband of her friend Devayani, to enable her to have a son also. Text 32. Rajaputriya artitah apatye rajaputriartithopatye rajaputriartithopatye dharmam cha avekshya dharmam cha avekshya dharmavet smaran shukravachah काले स्मरन् शुक्रवचः काले दिष्टम् एवा अभ्यपद्यता राजपुत्र्यार्थितोपत्ये धर्मं चावेक्ष्य धर्मवेत् स्मरन् शुक्रवचः काले दिष्टम् एवाभ्यपद्यता राजपुत्र्यार्थितोपत्ये धर्मं चावेक्ष्य धर्मवेत् स्मरन् शुक्रवचः काले दिष्टम् एवाभ्यपद्यता. Rajaputriya by Sharmishtha, who was the daughter of a king, Artitaha, being requested, Apatye, For a son, dharmam, religious principles, cha, as well as avekshya, considering, dharmavit, aware of all religious principles, smaran, remembering, shukravachaha, the warning of Shukracharya, kale, at the time, dishtam, circumstantially, eva, indeed, abhyapadyata, accepted, to fulfill the desire of Sharmishta. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Abhayacharana Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. When Princess Sharmishta begged King Yayati for a son, the king was certainly aware of the principles of religion, and therefore he agreed to fulfill her desire. Although he remembered the warning of Shukracharya, he thought of this union as the desire of the Supreme, and thus he had sex with Sharmishta. Can you repeat the translation? When Princess Sharmishta begged King Yayati for a son, the king was certainly aware of the principles of religion, and therefore he agreed to fulfill her desire. Although he remembered the warning of Shukracharya, he thought of this union as the desire of the Supreme, and thus he had sex with Sharmishta. Purport. King Yayati was completely aware of the duty of a Kshatriya. When a Kshatriya is approached by a woman, he cannot deny her. This is a religious principle. Consequently, when Dharmaraja Yudhishthira saw Arjuna unhappy after Arjuna returned from Dwaraka, he asked whether Arjuna had refused a woman who had begged for a son. Although Maharaja Yayati remembered Shukracharya's warning, he could not refuse Sharmishta. He thought it wise to give her a son, and thus he had sexual intercourse with her after her menstrual period. This kind of lust is not against religious principles, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.11. Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi. Sex life not contrary to the principles of religion is sanctioned by Krishna, because Sharmishta, the daughter of a king, had begged Jayati for a son. Their combination was not lust but an act of religion. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport and translation to Canto 9, Chapter 18, texts 30 to 32 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Ajnana-thimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nahushaya Sutam Dattva Saha Sharmishthaya. So Nahushaya refers to the descendant of Maharaja Nahusha. That refers to King Yayati. Nahushaya sutam datva saha sharmishtaya. So, Shukracharya's daughter Sharmishta was given in marriage. Sutam Datva. Sutam means uh, Shukracharya's daughter, referring to Devayani. Datva was given in marriage to Nahushaya, King Yayati. Saha Sharmishtaya. And along with Devayani, Sharmishta also went with Devayani. But Sharmishta was not married to King Yayati. Only Devayani was married. But because Devayani requested her father that Sharmishta, who was the son of another king by name Vrishaparva, that this girl should come as my assistant, my maidservant. So Shukracharya could not deny, and then he went and requested King Vrishaparva that my daughter has a wish, kindly fulfill that. But at that point, her wish was not revealed. First of all, the agreement was done that Vrishaparva will agree to whatever Devayani wanted. And after Vrishaparva gave his consent to fulfill Devayani's desire, Devayani revealed her mind that she wanted Vrishaparva's daughter to become her maidservant. And not only that, earlier it was discussed, even her friends should also come along with Sharmishta as a maidservant. So this was an unusual request. She was quite puffed up, Devayani. And Shukracharya also did not correct her because he was too attached to his daughter. So he didn't advise her. This is another problem with affection. Too much undue affection. Everything has got a right place, but if you don't use them to its proper utility, it will lead to problems. So this is one such case, affection unduly applied, undue affection shown to the daughter. So Shukracharya didn't correct her. And even after she made her request, Shukracharya didn't say, no, this is not right to ask like this. He still kept quiet. He was right there. He still kept quiet. Anyway, Vrishaparva agreed to fulfill the desire of Devayani because Shukracharya personally came with Devayani. And Vrishaparva was only afraid that if I don't fulfill Devayani's desire, Shukracharya might become angry. And Shukracharya is very powerful and is a Brahmana and a great sage. And Vrishaparva is just a king. Of course, no doubt, he's a powerful king. But Brahmanas are always powerful than the Kshatriyas. Brahma Tejaha is more powerful than Kshatriya Teja. Always. Although Brahmanas don't get into warfare generally, but they can control the Kshatriyas and Kshatriya power. Simply by desiring to kill a king, they will kill them off. They don't even have to fight. Just like it happened in the case of King Vena. King Vena became irreligious, godless, and the Brahmanas advised him, my dear king, it is not good. You are the king, you are the representative of God. So if you become irreligious and godless, what example are you setting to the people, your citizens, your followers? The king didn't care. He said, I am God and you should worship me and everyone should worship me and you please teach that. So then the Brahmanas, they had a conference one fine day. They thought that the king has gone beyond any advice and corrective measures. There is no point in retaining the king anymore. We have to overthrow the king. So they all decided, and one fine day, they chanted some mantras and killed him. Simply by chanting mantras. Simply by speaking, uttering words, they killed him. And then they enthroned Prithu Maharaj, the son of King Vena, as the king. See, they are not taking undue advantage of the situation. Now there is no king, they didn't take over the ruling. Then again, because there is no king, there was disturbance in the kingdom. Then the Brahmanas again discussed how to bring about peace and harmony in the society. So then they thought they should get the son of King Vena only to rule the kingdom. But he is not there. So they churned his legs. And then they brought about King Prithu. Two sons came. The second was King Prithu. The first son was like the father only, demoniac. So they dispatched him to forest. They didn't give him the throne. Again they churned. So when they churned from the legs of King Vena, Prithu Maharaj made his appearance, and he was a partial incarnation of Vishnu, and he was the most suitable candidate to rule the kingdom. And then they enthroned him as the king, and then the Brahmanas became very happy. So here we can see how Brahmanas are not greedy, but they're very powerful than the Kshatriyas. So Vrishaparva was conscious of this, that if Shukracharya becomes angry, then it will not be good for the king. Therefore he agreed to Devayani's request. And in this way, as described here, Nahushaya Sutam Datva Saha Sharmisthaya. So King Yayati was offered Devayani, the daughter of Shukracharya, but along with Devayani, Sharmishta also went with the king. Shukracharya also kept quiet, he didn't say anything, but he warned the king like this: Ushana tam aha rajan. Ushana tam aha rajan. He spoke to the king. Ushana refers to Shukracharya. Tam aha rajan. He spoke to King Yayati like this: Sharmishtam adas talpe na karihechit. He gave a warning actually. What is that? Sharmishta, this girl Sharmishta, adas talpe na karihechit. She should not lie with you in the bed at any time. Just because of my daughter's desire that she be her maidservant, that is fine. But you should not accept Sharmishta and associate with her at any point. Vilokya Aushanashim Rajan, O king. Here Shukadeva Goswami is narrating the whole instance to Parikshit Maharaj. O King Parikshit, Vilokya Aushasim. Vilokya, after seeing, Aushanashim, that means, see, Ushana is Shukracharya. So Ushana's daughter is Aushanasim, the daughter of Shukracharya. So Sanskrit is a very specific language. Everything has a meaning and connectivity. So Ushana is Shukracharya, Ushana's daughter is Aushanasim. This is we say Bhagini is sister, Bhagina is sister's child. So like that. So even Krishna is called Yadava because he is a descendant of King Yadu. So it's called Yadava. So Ushana Aushanasim. So Vilokya Aushanasim Rajan, O King Parikshit, Shukadeva Goswami is continuing to narrate this history of King Yayati. After seeing Vilokya Aushanasim, the daughter of Devayani, Suprajam, possessing nice children, a nice son, what happened? Sharmishta, she kvachit tam, at one point, sometime later, after Devayani gave birth to a nice son, Sharmishta once approached King Yayati. Kvachittam eva vavre, and made a request to King Yayati. Rahasi, in a secluded place. When the king was alone, she made a request to King Yayati. And what is that request? That she also wanted to have a son like Devayani. Rahasi Sakyapatim Ritau Sati. So she made a request to her friend's husband. You see, that's why it is used there. Sakyapatim. It is not her husband. Sakyapatim, her friend's husband. And that is the problem here. And Ritau, at an appropriate time. So, at the suitable time, she made a request to King Yayati. What is the Ritau, appropriate time, referring to? Suitable time for conception. Then she approached the king. Rajaputriya Artita Apatye. So Sharmishta, the king of Vrishaparva, Putriya Artita Apatye, being requested for a son. Artitaha Apatye, being requested for a son. Dharmam cha avekshya dharmavit. The king, who was certainly aware of the principles of religion, dharmavit, dharmam. He himself is well aware of the principles of religion, and being religious himself, avekshya, he considered the request of Sharmishta. And after considering through the lens of the principles of religion, he accepted her request. Even though Smaran, he remembered Shukravachaha, Shukracharya's words of warning. And that we discussed in text study. What was that? Never allow this girl Sharmishta to lie with you in your bed. Adas talpe nakar hichit. So never allow this girl to rest with you on your bed. So Smaran Shukravachak Kale, even though remembering Shukracharya's warning, still he went ahead. Dishtam eva abhyapadyata, and accepted to fulfill the desire of Sharmishta. And he united with Sharmishta and gave birth to children through Sharmishta. So, in the purport, Prabhupada clarifies why did King Yayati not heed to the warning of Shukracharya. Because a very important reasoning is, yes, in normal circumstances, the king should have kept his word of not uniting with Sharmishta, having given a word. Although it is not out of the way for the king to have union with other maid servants. It is allowed for a Kshatriya to have children through women who is not his wife. For a Kshatriya, it is allowed because, but when he unites with such girls or women other than his wife and gives birth to children, he will maintain them also. He will maintain them responsibly. It is not a irresponsible act. The kings, they generally have more than one wife. First of all, they have They may either have one wife or they may even have more than one wife. And they may have children through these married wives. And they will have claim to the throne also. But the king can also have association with other women who are not his wives and give them children, but they will not have claim to the throne. That is also there. But he will also maintain them responsibly. So the idea is the woman is not neglected, and irresponsible adultery is not encouraged. It is not that you can go on having a union with any woman and every woman. No, that is not allowed. Then you should take responsibility and give them children and take care of those women and their children also responsibly. So the kings had been quite responsible in those days. So King Yayati was very well aware of the principles of religion. So in this case, if we see, although the king is allowed to have union with other woman means not another's wife, not everybody's wife. No, that's a wrong thinking. You cannot have association with another woman who is married. That is not allowed. A Kanya, an unmarried girl. But once that union happens, you should take responsibility. Rather, the king takes responsibility. That is the idea. Anyway, generally we see that female population is more than the male population. So for every female there is no male. So therefore polygamy in this context was allowed in the Vedic system. One man can marry more than one woman, but he should take responsibility. Cannot commit adultery and desert the woman like that. Then that is considered sinful. So although he is allowed to unite with other girls, in this case Shukracharya warned, no, you should not do. So then Yayati should have respected that word, but still he crossed his limits and made union with Sharmishta. Why? So there is an important reason, which is explained by Prabhupada actually in the purport. What is the reason? The reason is when a Kshatriya, when a request is made to a Kshatriya, the Kshatriya cannot deny. When anybody comes to a Kshatriya and asks something, he cannot deny. Even his very life he will sacrifice. So that is the principle of a Kshatriya and the duty of a Kshatriya. So Sharmishta made a request to King Yayati that I want a son. So kindly bless me. Kindly fulfill my request. Having been asked, Kshatriya cannot deny and send the girl away. Then he has to fulfill her desire. So Kshatriya Dharma is like that. Because of which he agreed to fulfill her desire. Otherwise, he himself wouldn't have indulged in that wrong act. But this is not a wrong act. If he would have indulged in sex with Sharmishta, that would have been sinful. But Sharmishta requested King Yayati. Therefore, it is a principle of religion to give a child to a woman who has requested a son from a Kshatriya. So he cannot deny. That's why Prabhupada quotes, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshabha. Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, sex life which is not contrary to religious principle is myself. So sex life is not denied, but the purpose of sex life is to produce good progeny who can take part in Krishna consciousness or Varnashtama Dharma, who can take part in spiritual life, spiritual activities, who will advance Vedic culture. So such children are needed in the society. So therefore this is sanctioned. So, uh, so first of all, we see in the Vedic system, there are four spiritual orders: Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. And it is called ashrama. Ashrama means spiritual shelter. So, moment you are a human being, you have to come under the umbrella of Varnashrama Dharma. That means spiritual life. Although there are four classes of human being called Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, as per their qualities and inclination, they are categorized as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, not by birth, but by quality and inclination. So what quality they manifest prominently, they will be trained in that way by the Guru. So so every child, particularly male member, would go to the Gurukul or the Guru's ashram for training. Just like today we send the children to school, in those days they would send the children to what is called as Guru's ashram. It's called Gurukula. And the Guru will train the children equally in the principles of Vedic life, the purpose of human life, the aim of human life, spiritual culture, everything the Guru will train him. In spiritual knowledge, Vedic culture, in material knowledge, he'll give all training. And then the Guru observes the likes, dislikes, inclinations, specific abilities, qualities of the particular individual and accordingly train him. Not that everybody is given the same training. There is a basic training which is given to all. Then whether one becomes a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra depends on the individual. How he shows up, how he fares, in which line. Just like here also basic education is given in our present educational system. Then whether one becomes an engineer or a doctor or a chartered accountant, that depends. What inclination and abilities he shows. He will be specialized in that route later on. That's why we say up to 10th we have a basic common education. And after that we choose whether commerce stream or science stream. But in our present system, we are choosing ourselves. So we may be wrong many times. But in the case of the Vedic system, the Guru who is highly experienced, he will decide. He will decide because he will decide objectively. Here we may desire being influenced by somebody. Just like we see money available in business. So I want to become MBA graduate, but you don't have any traits of a manager or a businessman. Then you will miserably fail entering business. That's what we see today. Everybody is entering business field and they're creating losses and loans because they're not Vaishyas. They're simply greedy. That's all. Greedy for money. But they don't know, they don't have acumen to make money. That is a Vaishya. Vaishya you don't become Vaishya by learning books. You don't become Kshatriya by learning books. You don't become Brahmana by learning books. There must be the quality also, not by academics. So this is the mistake in the modern system. So the Guru, so it may be by imitating others, I want to become something, or because of envy, or because of comparative reasons. Oh, all of them are engineers. If I'm a commerce student, what will happen? Oh, all of them are chartered accountants. If I'm an art student, what will happen? Oh, all of them have houses. If I don't have, what will happen? It is simply an imitation. So there could be so many reasons influencing our particular path and decision. It is all biased. All our decisions are biased and imperfect and influenced. But the Guru in the Gurukula is not biased and influenced. He is very objective and very sober and very highly experienced. So he will decide what the children must become. And accordingly, he'll train them as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So that is the material part. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is more or less for our material existence. But most important is spiritual culture, and that is called ashtama. So whatever you are, whether you are a Brahmana or even a Shudra, still one must accept the shelter of spiritual life. That's why we see even for Shudra, even he can take part in spiritual life and spiritual activities. Of course, what kind of spiritual activity? Those details, that is well determined in the Vedic literatures. But in any case, even a Shudra can take part in spiritual life and spiritual practices as designed and directed for him, which is most suited for him. So a Brahmana generally goes through all the ashtamas, generally. Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. Generally, Brahmana goes through all the 4 ashtamas. A Kshatriya goes through Brahmacharya, Grahastha and Vanaprastha. Up to that. Vaishya, Brahmacharya and Grahastha. Ashrama. And even Vanaprastha. But Shudra, only one ashrama, Grahastha ashrama. He doesn't undergo Brahmacharya, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa training. It is not designed for him. It is not a question of restriction. It's a question of design which is well suited. Just like we have, because this body is a material body. This body is a material body. It has got a certain design. And only if you make it function in that way, it will give its fullness. Just like you have a car. You have a Maruti 800, you have a petrol car, you have a diesel car. Okay? So you cannot mix up the things. You cannot put kerosene or diesel in the petrol car. Nor can you put petrol or kerosene in the diesel car. What it is designed for, it has to be used for that purpose. So this material body is a machine, as Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita. Yantra rudhani mayaya. It's a material machine given by material nature. So this each body is unique in its abilities, in its way of functioning, in its outputs and in its inputs. It is not the same. Even among human bodies, each body is different. There is the influence of Sattvaguna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna differently acting in all the bodies. Differently acting. In some bodies, Sattvaguna is dominating more. In some bodies, Rajoguna. In some bodies, Tamoguna is dominating more. And in some, and there is also mixture of all these gunas. But something is prominent at some point of time in a person's life. So based on that, these ashrama designs are done. So if we don't follow, then there will be a mismatch of the gunas and there will be disaster. He will not be comfortable. So those things, anyway, it's a great science. It's a great science. And the gurus and the teachers of those times were highly trained and experienced in this regard to detect the nature of an individual and accordingly suggest. Just like an expert doctor studying the kapavata pitta, the pulse of the patient, will prescribe a certain medicine for a certain disease. But he will not prescribe the same thing for another person. Just like fever, 10 people may have. 10 people may have fever. And all the 10 patients will go to the doctor. But when they come out of the doctor's room, each one will have a different prescription. And you'll be surprised. Everybody had viral fever. But the prescription need not necessarily be the same. It may be different. It may be different. There could be many other criteria influencing a certain fever or a certain disease in the individual. And the doctor studies all of them, observes all of them. Why did he become sick? 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 And how did he become sick? What led him to sickness? What led him to sickness? So many considerations will be there. Accordingly, the prescription will be given. Exactly like that. So the Acharya or the Guru, understanding the nature of the student, his upbringing, his source of birth, everything, there are so many considerations. His likes, his dislikes, his interests. Where is his mind going? Where is his interest going? So many considerations. He will suggest him a particular ashrama. So up to 25 years, generally, up to 25 years, all the children are sent to Gurukula. From the age of 5, up to 5 years, there should be no schooling for the child. The child must be allowed to play freely and happily. There should be no schooling system must be there, as per the Vedic system. But from the age of 5, he is sent to Gurukul to be trained under Guru. He will not be kept at home for education, because you require an atmosphere, you require a culture, a setting. At home there is no such setting. You have to send your children to Gurukula. It is compulsory. It was mandatory. Today, as we go to school as a mandate, as a mandatory thing, earlier it was not even just go to school officially. You should stay with the Guru, live with the Guru for personal training, because now you are getting academic training. What about culture? What about practical aspects? See, there is actually a mismatch. You go to school, study something, but you come to home, there is no such setting. Do you have a lab? Do you have all the facilities to practice what you studied in the school? It's not there. Infrastructure is not there at home. So in the Gurukula ashram, this infrastructure will be made available. The atmosphere will be made available to train him. Not only academically, culturally, so many ways. So up to 25 years, he must be in Guru's ashram. Then the Guru will decide whether he will go back home or he will continue to stay back in Guru's ashram. The student doesn't decide, the parents don't decide. The Guru will decide whether he'll go back home or not after the training is complete. If the Guru senses that he is not suited for leading a life of celibacy, then the Guru may send back the student to home. Otherwise, he may keep the child back. Once the child is given to the Gurukul, the parents have no claim. The parents have no claim. That was the Vedic system. And even the king's son must go to Gurukula. There is no separate training. King's son, the Guru will go to the kingdom for separate training. Nothing. Even if he is king's son, he must come to Guru's ashram, which will be a small, simple cottage or a hut, and stay in that hut only. He may be a king's son, royal. He may be from the royal family, but he must live with every other child and grow with every other child and undergo the same training, get the same facility with every other child, as decided by the Guru. Then he will be sent back afterwards. So if the Guru senses that he is suitable for Grahastha life, not for a celibate life, the Guru will send back the child. So if you can't remain celibate, even after the Brahmacharya training, at least he is well versed in the principles of Dharma. And he will not commit adultery and illicit activities. Because 5 years to 25 years is quite a good period. And they are formative years. They are formative years of the child. And in the formative years, whatever you learn, you imbibe, you assimilate culturally, academically, and more importantly, culturally. The values what you receive as a child goes deep into your heart, into your subconscious level, goes to a subconscious level. So there is generally no chance of adultery and misbehavior when you enter into Grahastha ashram. Even if you marry, you will become a responsible grahastha. So a responsible brahmachari will be a responsible grahastha. Responsible grahastha will be a responsible vanaprastha. Responsible vanaprastha will be a responsible sannyasi. And then you achieve liberation at the end. But if you have not undergone brahmacharya and had been responsible in brahmacharya life, you will not be a responsible grahastha also. Even with having brahmacharya training, there is no good grahastha. And without any training, if somebody becomes a grahastha, what will be the scenario? This is what Arjuna was afraid of. And he expressed that to Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. That if the women are not protected and they don't give birth to Krishna conscious children, they will not take part in Varnashrama Dharma or spiritual life, spiritual activities. Tomorrow they will become the father. As the saying goes, the child is the father of man. There's a common saying in English, the child is the father of man. That means he is going to be the future father of man. So he will not be interested in undergoing any training. He will not be interested. Today we can see the children not interested in any Vedic training. Because of the yoni, the source of birth, the parents. Because the birth of the child had not been in a pure way, in a sanctified way. The birth must be sanctified. If the birth was sanctified, then the child will naturally be inclined to spiritual activities. If the birth was not sanctified, means reverse analysis, the union was not sanctified, was not pure between the husband and wife. That means that union was not dharma vididdho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshapa, was not sanctioned by the scriptures. Even between husband and wife, there must be they both must be uniting as per the principles of dharma for a cause, spiritual cause, Vedic cause, to give rise to Krishna conscious children, Krishna conscious progeny. And their minds must be sanctified and purified at the time of conception and union. If their minds are not purified, then 100% a non-Krishna conscious child will take birth. If the minds are purified, 100% a Krishna conscious child will take birth. So therefore, marrying is not out of the way in the Vedic religion. It is very much allowed, but there must be responsibility being taken. If somebody can remain celibate, that is very encouraged. But if somebody cannot remain celibate, then he is encouraged to become grahastha properly and lead a proper grahastha life, because we also need Krishna conscious children to flood the society with Krishna conscious population. Otherwise it will be demonic population, asuric population, who are not interested in spiritual life and God consciousness. And if they are not interested in spiritual life and God consciousness, naturally they will be demoniac or swarthis, since they will be only interested in their own enjoyment, and then there will be no peace and harmony in the society. So with all these considerations, therefore one has to practice dharma. Whatever style of life one may adopt does not matter, whether brahmachari, grahastha, but he must be Krishna conscious and follow the principles of religion. So that is why here Sharmishta, she being a woman, naturally women want children, so nothing wrong. And she approached the king at the right time in an appropriate way, so the king also obliged. But adultery should not be allowed. Unrestricted mixing should not be allowed. So then dharma will be protected and there will be good population. So I'll stop here. Untitled Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.